The Chicago winter cut through James Harper's threadbare coat as he stood outside a cafe, staring at the warmth inside. James had been standing there for over an hour, his pride battling his desperation. He had lost his job at the factory 6 months ago. Bills piled up. His landlord had given him an eviction notice. His daughter, Emily, was sick with a fever, but he couldn't afford a doctor. That morning he had left their tiny apartment with only a few coins in his pocket, hoping to find work. Hunger gnawed at him, but he clutched the last dollar in his pocket. Emily needed medicine. He turned on his heels and walked toward the pharmacy at the end of the street. Inside, the cashier hesitated when he asked for fever medicine. "It's at least $10, she murmured. Defeat sank into his bones. What had he expected? The girl looked at his worn-out clothes. She made a quick decision, grabbing a small bottle from the shelf behind her. She scanned it, pretended to punch in a discount code, and slid it toward him. "That'll be $1. James stared at her in disbelief. "Are you sure?" She nodded quickly. "Just take care of your kid, okay?" His vision blurred with tears. "Thank you," he whispered, gripping the medicine like a lifeline. Outside, the cold wind didn't seem so cruel anymore. That night, Emily's fever broke. James sat beside her tiny bed, brushing damp curls from her forehead, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest. But life remained harsh. 2 days later, his landlord knocked on the door, demanding rent. James pleaded for more time, but the answer was final. He had 3 days to leave. As he walked the streets, searching for work, his mind replayed the cashier's act of kindness. That afternoon, he saw an old man shivering on a park bench, his shoes full of holes. James only had one thing left to his name, a thick woolen scarf given to him by his late wife. But without hesitation, he wrapped it around the old man's neck. The man's eyes filled with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you," he murmured. James smiled. "Just stay warm." The next morning, fate took an unexpected turn. James went to the diner for a dishwasher's job. He overheard a conversation between 2 businessmen. One of them was struggling to find a trustworthy worker for his warehouse. Taking a deep breath, James approached them. "Sir, I couldn't help but overhear. I used to work in a factory for 10 years. I'm looking for a job. Any job." The businessman studied him for a moment. "You have experience?" "Yes, sir." "Can you start tomorrow?" James almost stumbled backward. "Yes, absolutely." It felt like a dream. Just when he thought the world had turned its back on him, a door had opened. And it didn't stop there. Within a few months, he saved enough to rent a small but comfortable apartment for Emily. He never forgot the kindness he had received, and he paid it forward whenever he could. One evening, after work, James stopped by the pharmacy. The young cashier was still there. He bought some candies and placed a $20 bill on the counter. "This is for you," he said. She frowned. "Sir, I can't accept this." He smiled warmly. "You already did." She looked confused, but then recognition flashed across her face. You're the man with the sick daughter." James nodded. "Your kindness saved my little girl, and because of that, things changed for me. This isn't about the money. It's about making sure kindness keeps moving forward." The girl's eyes shimmered with emotion. She took the bill, not for herself, but with the promise of passing it on to someone else in need. Years passed, and he taught Emily the same lesson. Generosity is not measured in coins, but in the spirit of giving.